안녕하십니까. 한 OECD 국제교육 컨퍼런스 특집 한국 교육의 미래를 말하다 제1부 진행을 맡은 신종호입니다. 오늘 저희 스튜디오에 아주 특별한 손님을 모셨습니다. OECD 경제협력개발기구의 교육국을 책임지고 있는 안드레아스 슐라이어 국장이십니다. 환영합니다.
I'm Andreas Schleicher. I'm Director for Education and Skills at the OECD. We are best known for our work on PISA, but we do a lot of work beyond that, from early childhood education and care up to supporting learning throughout life.
OECD 교육 사업들을 총괄하고 계시는데 관련해서 사람들이 슐라이어 국장님을 세계의 교육 대통령, 또 국제 학업 성취도 평가와 관련해서는 피사의 아버지라고 부릅니다. 이런 얘기 들으시면 어떠세요, 기분이?
Yeah, well, PISA was one of the projects I initiated in the end of the 90s when I joined the OECD to provide a perspective for countries to look outwards, to show us what is possible and to connect countries in different ways of thinking about education. That was the idea behind that.
네, 상당히 중요한 OECD 사업 중에 하나가 피사가 아닌가 생각을 합니다. 이 프랑스 파리에 계시면 OECD 회원국만 해도 36개국씩이나 되잖아요. 해외 출장이 되게 많으신데 어떻게 좀 그 해외 출장 다 보내고 계신지 좀 궁금해요. 체력 면도 그렇고 정신 면도 그렇고 되게 힘든 여정이실 것 같거든요.
Yeah, working in an international environment is always challenging. It's about managing different time zones. It's managing working with different cultures. But I think that is also what makes our work interesting and rich. I think I have the most interesting work in education that exists. You know, I work with over 80 countries now, thinking about how the future of education should be, how we can make that future visible, how we can actually measure and compare our relative strengths and weaknesses. So, yeah, it's a very challenging work to do in the international context, but also extremely interesting.
예, 미래 교육에 있어서 세계 교육 방향이 어떠해야 되는지 저희가 상당히 궁금해하고 많은 부분에서 오늘 또 대담도 이루어질 것 같습니다. 이 오늘 방문도 한 OECD 국제교육 컨퍼런스 때문에 오셨는데 이번에 몇 번째 방문이신가요?
Well, I visited actually Korea first in 1994. That was even before Korea became a member of the OECD.
그러네요.
And since then, I've been here almost, every year, following the progress of the country, which has been very impressive. I mean, Korea has been able to build a world-class education system in less than 3 generations. I think that's what the world admires your country for.
예, 이거 뭐 94년에 한국에 방문하셨으니까 벌써 25년 이상 한국 교육과 인연을 맺고 계신 것 같은데 이 한국에 오시면서 한국의 인상이 많이 변했을 것 같아요. 처음에 94년에 왔을 때하고 이번에 2019년에 왔을 때하고 한국의 인상은 어떤가요?
Well, when I visited Korea, first it was still best known for a very traditional view on education, where learning was mainly about the reproduction of subject matter knowledge. Students studying very hard in school, out of school. When I visit Korea now, I can see a much more 21st century perspective on learning, where student agencies, the capacity of students not only to absorb knowledge, but to create knowledge, where social and emotional skills are gaining in importance. So I can see not only a trajectory of doing more of the same, but actually also educating differently. I've been deeply impressed by the teachers I've met in Korea, teachers who take a deep responsibility for the well-being of students, who educate students from disadvantaged backgrounds with enormous dedication and effort. I admire Korea for that.
대단히 감사합니다. 우리 한국 교육이 사실은 아주 불모지에서 시작을 해서 많은 변화를 거쳤는데 지금 말씀하신 것처럼 지식교육에서 사고, 역량교육으로 변하기 위해서 많은 노력을 하고 있는 건 분명한 것 같습니다. 많은 또 OECD하고 협력적 관계가 그 부분에서 도움이 되지 않을까 생각을 합니다. 요새 한국 교육도 그렇지만은 이제 한류, 뭐 K-팝해서 외국 분들이 이제 한국에 오시면 한국 문화에 되게 익숙하세요. 그리고 음식 문화도 그 중에 하나인데 일반적으로 한국 음식하면 비빔밥, 불고기 이런 게 유명한데 최근 들어서는 감자탕, 또 그 닭갈비 이런 게 또 유행을 하더라고요. 혹시 국장님 좋아하시는 한국 음식이 있으신가요?
Well, I think Korean barbecue is popular anywhere in the world. Korean food is very popular. But I also believe Korean education has become popular, particularly countries nowadays in the developing world can see hope. They can see actually it is possible to improve education at a very rapid pace. It's also possible to make education the driver of social progress. So I think, yeah, Korea is famous for its culture, for its food, but it's equally famous for what it has achieved in
예.
education.
지금 말씀하신 것처럼 한국 문화, 음식 이런 것도 상당히 이제 대중화됐지만 한국 교육도 전 세계적으로 많이 대중화되고 있는 그러한 변화를 직접 지금 목격하고 계신다 그러는데 한국 교육하면 다른 나라하고 비교해서 어떤 특징이 좀 있나요?
I think several things. I think the first is that the academic outcomes are world-class standards, including the success of students from quite disadvantaged backgrounds. I know Korea pays a lot of attention on equity and opportunity, but it actually is also doing very well on that by international standards. If you are coming from a disadvantaged family, you get still a very good public education in Korea. I think that's a big strength. Where Korea is not so strong is when it comes to students' satisfaction with their own lives, their social and emotional well-being, their sense of belonging in school. I think these are areas where Korea still has to match up to the world's most advanced education system. So international comparisons like PISA do show important strengths, particularly on the academic side of learning, but they show also room for improvement when it comes to other qualities that are very, very important for success in life. You know, the first industrial revolution taught us how to educate second-class robots, you know, people who are very good at repeating what we tell them. In the time of artificial intelligence, the kind of things that are easy to teach, easy to test, are disappearing from our labor markets. And we need to think much harder about what makes us human. And I think there are dimensions where Korea needs to work on as well as a high-performing education system. Another aspect that really strikes a foreigner is the heavy emphasis that you place on the college entrance exam. You know, that almost distorts anything that children learn from early ages on, what parents do, the choices students make, and that is not so common across countries. There would be more room for schools to, you know, define what students should be learning and to support students in a broad range of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values, whereas college entrance is just one of multiple ways to success in life, whereas in Korea, is still often revered as the only route to success. And I think that's something I think that is quite special in this country.
네, 지금 말씀해 주신 것처럼 4차 산업혁명으로 인한 사회 변화가 촉진되고 있는 것뿐만 아니라 한국의 경우에는 이 인구 절벽과 같은 중요한 요인이 미래 사회 변화를 가져올 수 있는 그러한 요인으로 꼽히고 있습니다. 이번에 그 한 OECD 국제교육 컨퍼런스 역시 저희가 이제 미래 사회에서 교육의 역할을 어떻게 준비해야 되느냐와 관련해서 준비하고 많은 이야기를 나누는 시간이라고 생각을 하는데 이번 개막식 기조연설에서 그 하신 말씀 중에 역사적으로 교육은 기술 경쟁에서 이겨왔는데 앞으로는 이길 수 있는 보장은 없다라는 아주 충격적인 말씀을 해주셨어요. 저는 이게 아주 중요한 말씀이라고 생각하는데 이 교육 전문가로서 2030, 2030년의 미래 사회 어떻게 달라질 거라고 예상하시는지 구체적으로 좀 얘기를 듣고 싶습니다.
Yeah, you know, if you think about the first industrial revolution, suddenly technology moved ahead of people and machines were taking over the work that people had done with their hands. And people suffered badly in those times because they were not prepared for the time of automation. But we had many generations to catch up. We could build schools, we could educate people, we could sort of educate the norms of the industrial age to people. And then people were ahead of technology and could take a lot of benefit out of this. But today we're seeing the same phenomenon. Technology is racing ahead of the skills of people. Artificial intelligence taking over things that we have done with our minds. And this is at a breathtaking speed. I think that is the big difference to the past, where technology development was slow. It left us time to adapt. Can I mobilize my cognitive, social, emotional resources in a new context, in a novel situation? Those are capabilities that are much harder to develop in traditional learning environments. In the past, learners were passive recipients. The teacher talks, the students absorb. Today, learning is an active process. Students and teachers become co-creators in new learning environments. And I don't think they get ready for this. No? But technology is not waiting for us. That's, I think, the
Right.
big difference.
네, 지금 말씀하신 것처럼 테크놀로지의 변화는 인간의 학습, 그다음에 적응보다 더 빠른 속도로 이루어지기 때문에 미래 사회 또 미래 교육의 불확실성이 증가하고 있다 이렇게 볼 수 있을 것 같아요. 그래서 미래학자들도 5년 후, 10년 후 어떻게 미래 사회가 구성될지 알 수 없다 이런 얘기를 많이 하는 것 같습니다. 그래도 미래 사회를 저희가 생각해 봤을 때 저희가 사회적인 측면에서 또 교육적 측면에서 부딪힐 수 있는 가장 큰 어려움이 뭔지 이 부분에 대해서 한번 좀 짚어볼 필요는 있는 것 같아요. 어떤 측면이 가장 어려운 부분이 될 건지 예상을 좀 말씀해 주시면 좋겠습니다.
And you know, this is where I think we really need a real paradigm shift. In the past, we sort of thought we project the future, we prepare people for it, they are prepared. I think that paradigm no longer works. Success in education is no longer about teaching something. It's about giving people a reliable compass and the tools to navigate through an increasingly complex world. For example, take a field like science. Success is no longer about teaching students just content knowledge in physics, chemistry, and biology. It's about helping young people to think like a scientist, understand the nature of scientific inquiry. It requires an active learning. Students need to acquire the energy, the interest, the motivation to learn. That, I think, is going to be key.
미래 세계가 이제 불확실성으로 가득할 것으로 예상되기 때문에 교육의 방향도 기존의 지식을 가르치는 것이 아니라 이 불확실성, 복잡성에 대해서 어떻게 헤쳐나갈 것이냐에 대한 역량을 키워줘야 한다라고 하는 말씀 참 중요한 것 같아요. 근데 그 얘기를 제가 들으면서 그런 준비들을 여러 나라에서 하고 있을 거라는 생각이 좀 들었는데 혹시 그런 미래 교육에 대해서 준비하고 있는 사례가 있다면 어떤 것이 있는지 좀 말씀해 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
There are many interesting examples around the world. If you look, for example, to Finland in Europe, almost all learning has become project-based. It is learning across the boundaries of disciplines. It's integrating different fields of knowledge to help students navigate knowledge in a kind of as creators of knowledge. If you look to Canada, you find states with very interesting experiences also to create immersive learning environments where students and teachers work together to co-create learning situations. The concept of student agency also in Japan has become very, very prominent. Now, the idea that students need to actively own their learning, they need to have true ownership over what they learn, how they learn, where they learn, and when they learn. So I think those are, that we find many examples in many countries, but I don't think any country has found the answer to this. This is why international collaboration really provides an important mechanism for countries to share their ideas. No? If you think about Korea, in the past, education was easy for Korea. It was about catching up, moving to the frontier. Now Korea is in the first row of the most advanced education system. It's much harder to imagine the future now.
지금 이제 핀란드하고 캐나다의 사례를 좀 말씀을 해주셨는데 구체적으로 이 국가 또는 다른 국가에서 이 미래 교육 트렌드를 이끌어가기 위해서 준비하고 있는 제도나 교육 프로그램 같은 것들이 있다면 어떤 것이 있나요?
When you look to Finland, also Estonia, the first thing you see is that teacher education has become a very different enterprise. You know, if you think about Korea, Korea is very successful at attracting very qualified people into the teaching profession, educates them well. They enter the school very, very qualified. But the school doesn't do very much to support teachers to grow in their careers. If you're a teacher in Finland, you know, you are well educated as well. It's also quite prestigious. But the day you enter school, your learning starts. Every day you work with your colleagues to think about new practices. You have completed a research master's thesis so that you remain with this mindset of inquiry. You are a professional who is not only expected to, you know, disseminate knowledge to students, but to actually create knowledge, to develop new pedagogical practices. Teaching is very much a collaborative enterprise. You have a high degree of professional autonomy, but you work in a collaborative culture. And when you look to some of the most successful education systems today, learning is co-created. it's everybody's business. It's the role of students, the teachers, the parents, communities. Many schools, or in the past, schools were very good to keep students inside and the rest of the world outside. And what we do see in sort of the future education systems now is that school really becomes a whole of society enterprise, where you have actually, for example, parents giving young people career guidance, and sort of everybody contributes. And I think that those are big changes that we are seeing away from a kind of very industrial form of schooling. Everybody learns in the same way, with the same type of teachers, towards much more flexible ways that recognize that different students learn differently, and embracing that differentiation with quite differentiated support as well.
미래 교육 관련해서 봤을 땐 교사들의 역할이 상당히 중요하기 때문에 가르치는 역할에서부터 연구하고 또 창조하는 그런 교사가 될 수 있는 프로그램들을 여러 나라에서 실행하고 있다는 말씀도 해주셨고, 학교의 역할도 학교 울타리 내에서만 갇히는 것이 아니라 이 커뮤니티하고 연계해서 살아있는 교육의 역할을 해야 한다. 이게 미래 교육의 방향이다. 참 중요한 말씀이에요. 저희 한국에서도 교사 교육이나 마을 연계 그 학교 등에 대한 프로그램도 지금 준비하고 있는데 많은 부분 같이 고민해야 될 내용이 아닌가 생각이 듭니다. 지금 해주신 얘기랑 좀 연결이 되는 것 같은데, 이 학생들에게 아직 생겨나지 않은 직업을 위해서 어떤 그 아직도 개발되지 않은 기술을 가르치고 또 지식을 가르치고 또 발생할지 안 할지 그것도 모르는 사회 문제 해결을 위한 역량을 가르친다라고 그 찰스 파델의 4차원의 세계 책 서문에 그렇게 국장님이 쓰셨다고 제가 알고 있습니다. 이 미래 인재들이 앞으로의 그 변화되는 세상을 준비하기 위해서 어떤 역량들을 갖추고 있어야 될지에 대한 이야기로 좀 넘어가면 좋지 않을까 생각합니다.
A good foundation in knowledge is always key, but again we are seeing a shift from the content knowledge, knowing something, to more thinking and reasoning skills. Can you think like an historian? History is not just about names and places and people, it's about understanding how the narrative of a society has emerged, how it developed, how it advanced, and sometimes how it unravels when the context changes. Today you look knowledge up on the internet and you find 100,000 answers to your question, and nobody tells you what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is not true. So actually today it's about constructing knowledge, not extracting knowledge. And again, those kinds of dispositions, having this compass, knowing what is right and wrong, what is true and what is not true. We don't get this from the outside world. We have to find that in us. Technology is always, very powerful, but it's ethically neutral. But it's in the hands of people who are not neutral. So our, ethical judgment, our moral integrity plays a far greater role in the world in which we live today than in the past, where technology did not, amplify what we do to the extent it does. So again, this aspect of attitudes and values is something very important. You want a great engineer, but you also want an ethical engineer. So I think we need to take those sides together.
예, 지금 말씀하신 것처럼 미래 사회의 변화를 창조할 수 있는 역량을 키워야 되는데, 이게 단순한 인지적 역량뿐만 아니라 태도, 가치, 이 교육도 같이 이루어질 필요가 있다라고 하는 부분은 참 중요한 말씀이신 것 같습니다. 이런 미래의 핵심 역량과 관련해서 또 저희가 드리고 싶은 질문이 하나 있습니다. 저희 한국에서는 이제 미래에는 컴퓨터를 다루는 능력이 상당히 중요하다. 그래서 어렸을 때부터 코딩 교육을 시키는 그런 열풍이 좀 일어나고 있거든요. 심지어는 이제 유아 코딩이라는 말까지도 나오는데, 지난 2월에 세계교육혁신회의 연설에서 우리 국장님께서 하신 말씀을 제가 좀 찾아봤습니다. 되게 저희가 좀 많은 것들을 생각하게 하는 말씀인데, 코딩은 단지 우리 시대의 기술이다. 지금 3살짜리 아이들이 나중에 대학을 졸업하고 사회에 나갈 때에는 코딩이 뭔지 전혀 모를 수 있다. 이런 말씀을 좀 하셨는데, 이 코딩 교육에 대해서 구체적으로 어떤 의미인지 좀 국장님의 생각을 듣고 싶습니다.
It's always tempting to teach children the technologies or the techniques of our times, but sometimes over that we forget the ideas that are behind that. For example, I believe in today's world it's very important for young people to learn, computational thinking. Understand the nature of an algorithm. If I don't understand the idea of an algorithm, I become the victim, the object. Our grandparents did better than this. They didn't teach us, pen literacy. They taught us literacy, the idea to create knowledge, extract knowledge, read. And I think that's what we should get back to. What are the fundamental human abilities that are behind those techniques, and teach them, rather than to teach the surface techniques that actually crowd out the important things. I think that's one of the biggest threats to education today, that learning becomes increasingly superficial, temporal, and success in education is about teaching fewer things at greater depths.
사실 저희가 코딩이라는 것을 통해 단순히 테크닉을 가르치는 것에서 머물러서는 절대 안 된다. 그 안에 기본적으로 이 컴퓨테이셔널 싱킹이라고 하는 사고할 수 있는 능력, 변화를 만들어낼 수 있는 능력을 키워야 되는데
Exactly.
너무 테크니컬한 측면에서 코딩 교육이 이루어지는 것이 문제다라는 말씀인 것 같아요. 그 점에서 저희도 코딩 교육의 방향에 대해서 다시 좀 한번 생각을 해봐야 될 것 같습니다. 그리고 그 2015년부터 18년까지 그 OECD 교육 2030 프로젝트를 진행하고 있는 걸로 제가 알고 있는데, 이때 되게 중요한 키 컨셉이 학습 나침반 2030이라고 들었습니다. 이 학습 나침반이라고 하는 게 되게 중요한 개념인 것 같은데, 이 부분에 대해서 좀 설명을 해주시면 좋겠습니다.
Yeah, with the compass, we try to reframe the ideas of education. The shift from a passive learner to an active learner. A learner who develops agency, this capacity to change things, to shift the world, to find your right place in society, and to change that place when society changed. Success in education is not just about learning something. It's also about being able to unlearn and relearn when the world changes. Sometimes, we have very, favorite beliefs and ideas, and sometimes we need to be ready to give them up when the world requires a paradigm shift to this idea of agency at the center of this, the active learner, the learner who owns the learning process. And then we look around, what are the most transformative competencies that people need today? The ability to imagine, to create, the capacity to manage tensions and dilemmas, navigate ambiguity, the capacity to mobilize, to take action, to take responsibility. And we look at the pedagogies that can frame those transformative competencies. It challenges the organization of schools. Schools are no longer separate from society. They are no longer places. Learning is not a place. Learning becomes an activity. So I think we need to rethink many aspects of the idea of assessment. Now we cannot, talk about developing holistic approaches to education when our assessments and examinations only take out very small slices out of this and judge the success of people on those. So all of those aspects are being challenged by the learning compass.
또 제가 좀 관심을 이번에 갖고 질문을 준비한 것 중에 하나가, 저희 정부에서 OECD에 한국 교육 분석을 의뢰를 했고 그와 관련된 프로젝트를 지금 진행하고 있다고 제가 들었습니다. 이 중점을 둬서 지금 분석하고 있는 한국 교육의 현재와 미래에 대한 내용들이 있다면 어떤 것이 있는지 간략하게 먼저 좀 얘기를 해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Yeah, the first focus is really about broadening learning because beyond academic performance, where Korea does very well, is a world-class performer. But looking at other dimensions of student success, that was the first. The Korean education system is still one where the idea of sorting people is very prominent. You have a few elite universities everybody wants to go to. You have a few elite high schools everybody wants to be in. That's about, sorting talent. Korea can still advance, in our view, to develop talent, to understand that different students may have different talents and ideas, and to foster those ideas in a much more open way of learning. So again, sort of to take equity to the full, because in the past it was enough for a society like Korea to have only few educated, really well-educated workers, and the rest could do the work for those people. Today, if you want to be successful as a society, you need everybody to contribute. And that, I think, is a new paradigm also to create really lifelong, life-wide success for everyone. And the last aspects are about the governance of the education system. If you look, sort of, schools are still quite isolated from society, you know. And what I think is very, very encouraging, you know, Korea has built a world-class education system, and it asks itself with the same determination, how can we get ready for the next, you know, for the very different future.
예, 말씀하신 것처럼 한국 교육이 수월성만을 추구해 왔다면 앞으로는 좀 더 사회의 형평성, 그다음에 사회의 어떤 그 같이 더불어 사는 그러한 그 기능을 학교 교육이 어떻게 같이 갈 것이냐에 대해서 많은 고민을 더 해야 되지 않을까 생각을 해봅니다. 이 관련해서 그 한국 교육 분석을 하기 위해서 OECD 교육 전문가들이 저희 학교에 와서 실제 현장을 방문해서 관찰한 것뿐만 아니라 다양하게 교사, 학부모, 학생들을 면담하고 우리 한국 교육의 실태를 아주 철저하게 보고 갔었다는 얘기가 있더라고요. 그래서 저희가 그 상황을 비디오로 담아봤는데 같이 보시면서 좀 이 얘기를 나누면 좋을 것 같습니다.
경기도의 한 혁신학교. 이곳에 특별한 손님들이 찾아왔다. 한국 교육 분석을 위해 OECD 교육국 전문가들이 직접 학교 현장을 보기 위해 온 것이다.
Our visit here is to learn about the Korean education system and to work together to find ways of building on Korea's success to develop student agency and educational decision making for the future.
OECD 교육실사단은 먼저 학교 수업부터 참관했다. 중학교 3학년의 수학 수업 시간. 학생들의 주체성을 파악하기 위해 교사의 수업하는 방법, 학생들의 참여를 실사단은 면밀하게 관찰했다. 집중도가 높은 수업 모습을 보며 OECD 실사단은 상당히 흥미로워했다.
What I was very impressed with was the engagement of students. They all looked to be very interested in the content of the class, and I was also very impressed by the teacher's professionalism and the way that the teacher could switch between different pedagogical tools and methods.
곧바로 실사단은 중고등학교 학부모와의 면담을 시작으로 교사들이 겪는 어려움, 그리고 학생들의 솔직한 이야기를 들었다. 학부모, 교사, 학생. 이들은 한국 교육에서 어떤 변화를 원하고 있을까?
이제 대학을 나오지 않더라도 본인이 좋아하는 일을 하는 열정을 가진 사람들이 대우를 받을 수 있는 그런 사회가 돼야 될 것 같아요.
수행평가만으로도 충분히 학생들의 그 학력을 측정할 수도 있고, 그리고 원래 시험의 목적이 그 성적 산출보다는 학생들의 그 성장 발달에 더 관심을 두어야 된다.
뭐 제가 의사가 되고 싶은데 공부를 못해서 의대를 못 간다거나 뭐 이런 일이라 뭐 나중에 어떤 꿈이 생길지 모르니까 그거를 막기 위해서 공부하는 것 같아요.
수업 모습과 다양한 의견을 들은 OECD 실사단. 그들에게 비친 한국 학교는 어떤 모습이었을까?
Yes, yesterday we observed a class at an innovative school, and it was quite impressive because we observed the class with the high quality teacher and well-planned lesson, and especially the relationship among the students were quite positive. And also the use of technology was not just used as a tool, but this was used to enhance the learning and teaching. So the devices, the technological devices were there for pedagogical quality.
비디오를 보니까 OECD에서 오신 전문가들이 꼼꼼하게 상황들을 체크하고 또 학생, 교사, 학부모들하고 면담하는 모습들을 볼 수가 있었는데 최종 분석 결과는 내년에 나오죠. 근데 내년에 결과가 나오면 저희가 또 구체적인 얘기를 듣겠지만 제가 좀 궁금한 게 아까 학습 나침반 얘기하면서 되게 중요한 게 학생의 자기 주체성, 스튜던 에이전시 말씀하셨단 말이에요. 다른 나라하고 비교할 때 우리 학생들의 자기 주체성은 어떤 특징을 갖고 있는지 간단하게 좀 말씀해 주실 수 있나요?
Well, you know, the schools that we visited, some of them were very innovative schools, happy schools, democratic schools. They actually, we could see a lot of, student agency being developed, but these are still isolated examples.
학생들의 자기 주체성이 많이 좋아진 모습은 보이지만 여전히 이제 학교가 학생과 교사가 학생들의 자기 주체성을 더 개발해 갈 수 있도록 많은 지원을 해주면 좋겠다 이런 인상을 좀 받으신 것 같아요. 이 관련해서 보면은 제가 생각할 때는 이제 저희 학생들이 학습 불안이나 시험 불안 같은 게 많잖아요. 이런 것들이 이런 학생들의 자기 주체성을 떨어뜨리는 요인이 될 수가 있는데 보니까 네덜란드나 에스토니아 같은 나라들을 기조연설에서 언급을 하셨는데 그 학생들에 비해서 우리 학생들의 특징이 어떤지 좀 구체적으로 설명을 해 주실 수 있는지 궁금합니다.
Yeah, you know, the college entrance exam weighs very heavily on every student, on every family, and actually influences deeply how students feel about learning. And again, anxiety with tests, which is quite prevalent in Korea, is the enemy of agency. The examples of Estonia, the Netherlands, Switzerland show actually we can achieve very good learning outcomes and still give students that confidence. And I think that's something the right balance is important. The high expectations that Korea has for its students, I think, are very good. That basically that education is very rigorous, that it's highly demanding. There's a lot of cognitive activation in Korean classrooms. I think these are very strong characteristics. But the pressures, the motivation comes too much from the outside, through the exam system, and too little from the inside of students, the inquiry, the idea to learn. And I think that's something that balance will be important to change because, again, once you leave school, there's no external pressure anymore. If you become a lifelong learner depends very much on whether you have acquired those kind of the desire, the love for learning in school.
네, 지금 말씀하신 것처럼 학생들의 자기 주체성을 저해하는 가장 큰 요인이 대학 입시에 대한 부담이다라고 하는데 전적으로 저도 공감을 합니다. 저희가 대학 입시 제도 개선 어떻게 할 것이냐 이전부터 논의를 해왔지만 아직까지도 해결책을 못 내놓고 있고 또 지금도 되게 중요한 현안이 되고 있거든요. 저희 한국 대학 입시 제도 좀 이런 방향으로 좀 변화하겠으면 좋겠다라고 하는 그 어떤 생각을 갖고 계시면 국제적인 그 경험들이 많이 있으시니까 그 방향성에 대해서 한번 얘기를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
Yeah, if you would ask successful employers in Korea, they would not hire anyone solely on the basis of a standardized entrance test. They would talk to their people, they would interview them, they would look at their history, they look at their past experience, they look at the kind of credits people have accumulated in life in different situations. And I think this holistic appreciation is very, very important. What I see here in Korea often is that, fairness is almost seen as the same as standardization. But standardization doesn't automatically lead to fairness. In fact, you can have many important qualities of a learner here, cognitive abilities in subjects that are not tested. You can have important social emotional qualities. Again, in Europe, you would put a lot more weight on students' histories in school, their kind of experiences in school, to give students multiple ways. The other part is, in many countries, college is only one way to succeed in life. Korea is often seen as the only gateway to a successful, and then vocational education is a second choice or a third choice. And I do think, recognizing that people learn differently, have different futures, to be more open for that, I think it's a challenge.
지금 말씀하신 것처럼 저희가 지금 대입제도 개선에 대해서 논의를 하는데 이 공정한 게임이 과연 표준화된 게임을 의미하는 것이냐에 대해서는 저희도 깊이 있는 논의가 우리 사회 교육에서 필요하지 않을까 좀 생각을 해봅니다. 관련해서 좀 구체적으로 다른 나라 입시제도를 많이 봐오셨을 거니까 저희 나라 교육제도, 특히 이제 대입제도 개선과 관련해서 시사점을 줄 수 있는 사례가 있다면 어떤 게 있을지 좀 말씀을 해주시면 좋겠습니다.
There's a whole range. I mean, the standardized assessment is always of one element in this, but some universities place great emphasis on interviews, personal interviews, pre-selection processes, portfolios, credits that are accumulated school. There's a whole variety of assessment modes, and the more perspectives we can add to this process, the richer the picture we will have of the applicant, and the more valid the assessment is going to be of the different strengths and weaknesses of a candidate. And that's the effort, every successful employer is going through. In the real world, we look very carefully at the whole range of human abilities for which we hire, and I think universities can do a better job as well. And the signals that will send to what students learn in school, parents will place emphasis on what teachers are going to do, will be very, very powerful. It's not just about college entrance. It's really about the entire education system that will be shaped by that.
말씀하신 것처럼 대입제도뿐만 아니라 교육제도 자체가 다양한 학생들의 능력을 길러주고 그것을 평가할 수 있는 방향으로 변화돼야 할 것이다라는 말씀 전적으로 저도 공감을 합니다. 지금까지 이제 그 쭉 한국 교육에 대한 분석, 그다음에 관찰 등을 해오셨는데 이 한국 교육에 그래도 강점이 좀 있을 것 같습니다. 보시기에 이거는 강점이다. 미래 교육에 있어서 이 강점을 계속 키워갔으면 좋겠다라고 하는 측면이 있다면 어떤 점인지 좀 말씀해 주시면 좋겠습니다.
Well, I think Korea has many strengths. Its capacity to give every child from whatever background a solid foundation in knowledge is one that most countries around the world deeply admire. You find if you go to the United States, you come from a disadvantaged background, you're not going to get a good school education. I think Korea has really mastered to give a solid foundation to every student. The commitment that teachers have to the education and the well-being of students, I think is really, I think, a great strength of the system. The system to expand its capacity to really reach every child is, I think, very remarkable, to provide quite consistent learning outcomes. The areas where Korea can further develop is broadening the range of learning outcomes. Think beyond the academic, the cognitive performance, to also perhaps personalize learning more, to give students greater ownership over what they learn, how they learn, in what kind of learning environments they learn best, to give teachers greater empowerment to design the learning environments that fit their students best. I think those are areas, I think, that Korea can still further develop. But I think, if I would have to place my bets, which education system has the capacity to educate children for the 21st century, I would put Korea very high on this, because the foundations of the system are strong. The teacher capacity is very strong. The resources that Korea invests in education are high. So I think Korea has all the ingredients to actually manage that transformation. The expectations of societies are very strong. Many people think they are too high. Actually, I think that's one of the biggest resources that Korea has, that society really values its education. People are ready to sacrifice the present for the future. I think this is a huge strength of the system here.
지금 말씀하신 것처럼 모든 학생들을 위한 교육 기반, 그다음에 열정적인 교사, 또 이러한 교육을 가능하게 재원들이 우리 한국 교육의 강점이라고 말씀하셨고, 마지막에 또 이제 사회적인 기대에 대한 말씀하셨는데, 그와 연관해서 생각해보면 우리 학부모들의 교육 관심에 대해서 생각하지 않을 수 없는 것 같아요. 이제 저희가 점점 사회 양극화가 심화되면서 학부모님들 걱정 중에 하나는 우리 아이가 교육에 뒤처져서 나중에 사회적으로 불이익을 받으면 어떨까라는 걱정을 하는 경우가 꽤 있거든요. 물론 이제 건강하게 우리 아이의 행복한 교육을 위해서 우리 교육이 바뀌어야 되고 부모도 그 역할을 해야 한다라고 생각하는 분들도 있지만, 또 우리 아이가 그런 양극화가 심화되는 사회 속에서 뒤처지는 것에 대한 걱정을 하시는 분도 계시는데, 우리 한국 부모님들에 대해서 한 말씀 좀 해주시면 좋겠습니다.
Well, first of all, on equity, there's certainly more Korea could be doing to attract the most talented teachers into the most challenging classroom, and to ensure that the students who need the best educational resources have access to them. I think matching resources with needs will be very important. But there's also a very important message to parents. College entry was a guarantee for success in the past. It's no longer in the future. employers will look for people who are constantly able to grow and learn and continue to learn throughout their lives. So I think it's the broader range of qualities that will make people successful in the long run. You can see that already if you go to technology employers in Korea. They look very carefully for character qualities of people, for the dispositions that young people bring with them. So I think college is overrated in its importance. I think parents should be very careful that they do not sacrifice important human capacities and capabilities of their children that will, for the future, be more important than a college degree. Again, we do not know how the future is going to evolve. College degree can be an entrance ticket, but it's not a guarantee to remain successful in life. And I think that's something parents should, as parents, we are always good to educate our children in the way we have been educated. We get very anxious when, our children no longer learn things that were very important for us, or when they do learn things that we no longer understand. But I think we have to be also ready to understand that the future will be different from the present, and to see college not as the sole gateway to success that can compromise very important other human qualities.
지금 말씀하신 것처럼 대학 입시라는 단기적 관점이 아니라 평생 학습이라는 관점에서 우리 자녀의 행복한 성장을 좀 바라볼 수 있는 부모로서의 기다림과 지원이 좀 필요할 거다라는 생각이 들고요. 또한 교육제도도 보면은 큰 틀에서의 변화, 혁신을 좀 우리가 고려하면서 차근차근 한국 교육제도의 어떤 변화를 계획하고 준비해 가야 되지 않을까라는 생각을 좀 해봅니다. 그리고 그런 측면에서 봤을 때 지금 한국하고 OECD하고 같이 수행하고 있는 연구가 어떻게 보면 미래 방향에 되게 중요한 초석이 되지 않을까라는 생각을 해봅니다. 오늘 장시간 인터뷰를 해주셨는데 인터뷰 질문들 여러 가지 있었지만 쭉 생각해 보시면서 이 얘기를 꼭 좀 해보고 싶다 하는 게 있다면 마지막으로 간단하게 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Well, I think Korea can make a very important contribution to education, not just in the country, but in the world. Today, Korea is seen as a model for actually making education the elevator of society, to move society, to build a world-class education system, even when it was poor. I think in the future, Korea can be seen as the example of a country that has, prepared the 21st century education system. I think the country has the ingredients and the resources to make that happen. It has also the society that values that. And I think, education in Korea is good and important for Korea, but I think Korea can remain a very important example in the world as well.
오늘 긴 시간 함께 해주셔서 대단히 감사합니다. 한 OECD 국제교육 컨퍼런스 특집 한국 교육의 미래를 말하다 제1부 오늘 안드레아스 슐라이어 국장님하고 한국 교육이 나아갈 방향, 과제에 대해서 구체적인 의견을 들어봤습니다. 오늘 이야기됐던 내용을 통해서 또 OECD하고의 국제협력 연구 결과를 통해서 우리 교육의 변화 혁신을 위해서 힘차게 앞으로 나아갔으면 하는 기대를 해봅니다. 잠시 후에는 한 OECD 국제교육 컨퍼런스 특집 한국 교육 미래를 말하다 2부가 방송될 예정입니다. 꼭 시청해 주시고요. 내일은 3, 4부가 방송됩니다. 시청자 여러분의 계속적인 관심을 부탁드립니다. 오늘 시청해 주셔서 감사드립니다. 감사합니다.